Okay, this is page 210. It's an explore activity where we're modeling decimal fraction and percent equivalencies. Using models can help you understand how decimals, fractions, and percents are related. This first one's pretty simple and they get more complicated afterwards, so try what you can and then come back to the video and check your answers. A reads, model 0 and 78 hundredths by shading in a 10 by 10 grid. And then give you a bubble. It says 0 and 78 hundredths equals blank over 100. It's obviously 78. If you've yet to make this connection, when you have a 78 in the hundredths place, that's the same thing as having 78 over 100. Either way, that means, they want you to interpret it down below, that means that 78 out of 100, or 78%, and we are supposed to shade that. So I'm just going to count pretty quickly. 7 rows. It doesn't matter if you do this horizontally or vertically, it doesn't matter one bit. So I think that's 7 rows and then 8 singles, so 7 is 78. Okay. All right, question B. Model 1 and 42 hundredths. So I want to remind you that how we pronounce this right here is 1 and 42 hundredths. So that kind of means like one whole. You got to recognize that. The first one's going to be one whole. So and that how we're going to do that right here is one whole would be shading an entire grid. So I'm going to do that right now before I even think about it any further. I'm going to shade in one whole grid. 1 and means one grid shaded, and then we're going to have part of another grid shaded. All right. So we're going to model that right here. Our first bubble is 100 out of 100. Our second bubble is going to be this one right here, which is going to be 42 out of 100. Which is a total of 142 out of 100. Now what does percent mean? Percent means out of 100, so if we have 142 out of 100, it's going to be 142%. This is 1 and 42 hundredths right here. 1.42 equals 100% plus 42% for a total of 142%. Now I didn't shade that in yet, but I'm going to. 1, 2, 3, 4, that's 42. So up here, this is 78%. This is 100%, and this is 42%. So the total there is 100% plus 42%, which is going to be 142%. So we're going over 100%. All right, moving on. Question C reads, model 1 and 125% by shading 10 by 10 grids. The model shows 100% plus, we're going to do 25%, equals 125%. Let's do that right now. 100% is an entire grid shaded. And then 25% is going to be 2 and 5, 25. That's 125. This is 100. This is 25. You add them up, you get 125. And what is the decimal there? Well, think back up here. Let's go compare it to this one right here. Remember this one? It was 142%, and the decimal is 1.42. So what you need to recognize is that that 1 right there is the whole number, and then the 25% is the part. So it's going to be 1 and 25 hundredths. And then we're supposed to show our work down here, and it goes like this. 125% equals 100% plus 25, which is 125, which is 1 and 25 hundredths, which simplifies to 1 and a fourth. So the fraction for this one, the percent is 125, the decimal is 1 and 25, and the fraction's 1 and 1/4. Gets a little tricky, but it's not too bad. You can watch that twice if you need to, or you can ask me for help. Number 7. 7a, well 7 reads, multiple representations. What decimal, fraction, and percent equivalencies are shown in each model and explain? We just count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. That makes sense because the whole row is 10, 11, 12, 13. So it's 13 out of, there's 100 total, so it's 13 out of 100. What is that as a decimal? 13 out of 100 is 0.13, comma. And as a fraction is 13 hundredths, and that doesn't simplify because 13 and 100 don't share a factor. And the percent is 13%. It says explain. Well, I kind of explained it already by counting. Because there are 13 squares shaded out of 100. Sorry if that's just a little bit messy. All right, let's go check on the next one, B. We're going to do the same thing as we just did. We're going to do a decimal, a fraction, and a percent, but recognize that this one's going to be more than 100% because this whole thing right here is going to be how much? Well, you can count it up, but it's going to be 100. So it's going to be out of 100, but that's 100, and this is 10, 20, 30. So we're going to have 130 shaded out of 100. Well, what is that going to be as a decimal? Well, this is one whole, and this is 3/10 or 30/100. So the decimal is going to be 1.3. You could write 1.30, and it wouldn't affect the answer, but we just don't need that extra zero. 1.3. So because this is, I'm going to try to explain it one more time. Because this is one whole, and this is 1, 2, 3 out of 10. So it's 1 and 3 out of 10. That's the decimal. The fraction is 130 over 100, which would be 1 and 3/10. And the percent's going to be over 100%. This is 100%, and each of these is 10%, so it's 30%. It's 130%. We add those up. So the summary to draw here is that anything on a grid like this that is under 100 is going to be a 0 point or 0 and it's going to be a normal percent. Anything that fills up a whole grid and then goes on to another one is going to be over 100%. Okay, good job. You're done with page 210.